All right, guys, this is the last chapter, chapter 30. Peter was dry and warm in Uncle Victor's cabin. The coast of Norway was somewhere out in the blackness. The Atlantic rolled and the Clang Pearson pitched, and Peter was jounced up and down with the wash of the waves. Ahead lay America. So Peter was going to America. He was going to see New York and go to Pittsburgh with John Lassick and then travel to Minnesota where his uncle was a professor in St. Olaf's College in Northfield. Uncle Victor could arrange it, he said. You can be admitted as a minor in my custody. Our minister in Washington will do that much for us. He'll be only too glad to do something in return for all this gold. But what about Jean Lassick? Peter asked. How can he go without a passport? But he has a passport, the one that was stolen. There'll be record of it in Washington, and they'll be grateful for the information about the one who's masquerading in his name. They won't be long finding him. Peter was overjoyed with his good news for John. Since he had risked his life for him, there was no reward too high. Uncle Victor said something like this. It wasn't as easy for Jean as it looks, Peter. He ran a grave risk. He did it simply because I didn't feel right about sailing and leaving you there. Of course he knew the routine of the camp. He knew that at supper hour the barracks would be deserted except for the mess hall, and he knew about the side door and the sentry. But he was still in danger of being caught himself. If one little thing had gone wrong, he would have been caught. He had his uniform, too, Peter mused. One German uniform looks pretty much like another. Then a thought struck him. But how did he get the key to open the cell door? He wanted to know. The keys are kept on a panel in the guard room. The room was empty while the guard was at mess. All Jean had to do was slip in and take the key marked Das Gefängnis. His uncle went on. All that part was easy. The only hard part was getting him to the barracks without being seen on the way there. For he was being looked for everywhere, so we didn't dare have him go by foot from the Snake to reach the beach and barracks. It was Rolls who solved it for us, his uncle went on. He suggested that since the roads were being watched, we might make a landing by water. The Clang was pretty well covered by camouflage, so she could be moved to the mouth of the Snake where it meets the big ford. We were lucky it was a bad night. The rain and mist shortens the day. When it got dark, Rolls and Hans Torp and Sten lowered the lifeboat and rowed him right up to the fishing pier. But they couldn't wait for him there, because it was too dangerous. They had to get back to the cover of the Clang. That's why you had to swim so far. But how did Jean get past the sentries into the barracks? Just the way you got out. He waited for one to come up, turn, and start back. The minute his back was turned, he stepped inside the door. It isn't bolted till taps, and Jean knew that. The sentry was there to guard that very door, but there are always ways to get past sentries if you can think of those ways. Wasn't John afraid he'd be caught when he got inside the barracks? Of course, terribly, but he had to risk it. He did it for me? For you, and because I said I'd take him to America if he got you out. We heard the soldiers marching in the hallway. Were they coming to get me? Whether they were or not, you and Jean would have been in a pretty tight place if you'd run into them. Peter fell back in the bunk. So I'm going to America. But what about Mother and Lovisa and Bunny? Peter, I know you think it high-handed of me to be taking you this long distance without so much as asking if you wanted to go. But there was nothing else to do with you. I couldn't go all the way across the Atlantic without knowing what would become of you. And when I got you on board, there was nothing to do with you but take you along. We daren't turn back with all this gold. Oh, Uncle Victor, it isn't that. Only what? Well, when Father left, he said I was the man of the family, and I was to look after the others. Peter, don't worry. Your mother's being able to look out for herself and for her children. And although I'm sorry to have to tell you this, your father may soon be home. The British have withdrawn their forces from much of the coast. Our army is putting up a magnificent defense, but it's only a question of time until it can no longer hold out. Then the order will come to cease firing. Peter thought about the night his father had gone away, the night of the first blackout, and of all things that happened since. It's a shame, Peter, for you to be leaving without so much as saying goodbye to your family. and Helga and Michael and Pergarson and the others. But your mother was glad when I told her what we were going to try to do. You know she had gone to the Holmes to warn them that the missing Nazi might be in their barn. When Lovisa got to the farm with the news of what happened to you, she strapped on her skis and took the back trail through the woods to the snake. Take him to America by all means, she said. I want him to grow up in a country where people are free. She asked to have you promise that you will always remember to come of liberty-loving people who think freedom is a greater heritage than gold. There was a clatter of steps in the companionway. Rolls came into the cabin. Submarine off starboard, he said. Uncle Victor jumped to his feet in alarm. Then he saw the sheepish grin on Rolls's face. But it's a British sub, he spoke lamely. The Kling's doing 5 knots in this sea, he added. She ought to ride well, Uncle Victor answered. She's got cargo of gold for ballast. The flag of Norway was draped above the map on the bulkhead. Into the cabin came the notes of a cornet. It's my old horn. I lent it to the Polish boy, Rolls explained. In the galley, John Lassick was practicing the Star-Spangled Banner. So, pretty cool story. Finally got to finish it. But remember, this was based off of true events where the names had been changed. I'm going to read the foreword to you again. This story is based on an actual happening. On June 28, 1940, the Norwegian freighter Bomma reached Baltimore with a cargo of gold bullion worth $9 million. When the Bomma's captain asked for a police escort while unloading the bullion, a strange story came to light. The gold, it was learned, had been slipped past Nazi sentries by Norwegian children who pulled it on their sleds to a freighter hidden in the many fords of Norway's coast. That no harm might come to the brave children nor to the others of this recent little gold rush, the location of the ford was not disclosed and details were purposefully omitted. 2 changes were made in the scant account given by the news dispatches that accompanied the disclosure of the cargo of gold. The Bomma, a casting motor ship, became the Kling Pearson, a fishing smack. Also, the distance the gold was sledded was not 12 miles, but it was actually 35 miles. Otherwise, how the Norse children set about eluding the German forces of occupation is here reconstructed as well as possible from what brief facts were permitted.